The massive Tukra warship cast a dark shadow over Earth's defense station. It was so big that it blocked the stars behind it. Commander Juan Park stood tall and straight on the bridge of the UES Defiant. She watched as the alien visitors walked around her ship, clearly not impressed. Fleet Admiral Crowell looked at the engine room with his many blinking eyes. "Your engines are cute," he said in a mocking tone. "And these weapons? My people stopped using such basic tools many hundreds of years ago." The Tukra had only met humans 6 months earlier. Since then, they had talked with Earth's leaders, but always acted superior. Their ships and weapons were far more advanced than anything humans had built. They never tried to hide how funny they thought it was that humans wanted to be treated as equals. What the Tukra failed to understand was the strength of human determination, especially when others looked down on them. While the aliens laughed at the Defiant and called it a sweet little attempt at a warship, Commander Park and her crew kept working on their secret plans. Hidden deep inside the Defiant were special compartments. Inside these rooms, new technology hummed with power. This tech had been built by studying pieces of alien ships found on Earth. Even most human leaders didn't know what the Defiant could really do. After the Tukra visitors left with their fake smiles and condescending goodbyes, Park called all her top officers to the bridge. "They believe we are no threat," she told them, her face showing no emotion. "That's good. Let them keep thinking that for now." Lieutenant Hyun Ba, the weapons officer, looked worried. "Commander, they saw our main systems. They know exactly what we have." "They saw what we wanted them to see," Park replied. She pressed her hand against a hidden panel on her chair. A secret door opened in the wall of the bridge. The officers followed her through into a second control room. This one was filled with screens and control panels unlike anything in the main bridge. Strange blue light glowed from the walls and ceiling. "This is the real heart of the Defiant," Park explained. "Everything they saw was just for show." Engineer Mina Kang stepped forward, her eyes wide. "Is that what I think it is?" She pointed to a pulsing core of energy suspended in a clear container. Park nodded. "Yes, the artifact we found in the Antarctic crash site. We've learned how to control it, at least partly." "But the official report said it was just a piece of alien metal," said Security Chief Do-Yeon Choi. "That's what the public was told," Park said. "In reality, it's a power source beyond anything we've ever seen, and we've built the Defiant around it." The officers stared at the glowing core. It seemed to shift and move in impossible ways, sometimes looking like it wasn't fully in our dimension. "How much power can it generate?" asked Navigation Officer Jamin Ryu. "We don't know the upper limits," Park admitted. "But in tests, it produced enough energy to power all of North America for a year in just 10 minutes of operation." Medical Officer Subin Lee stepped closer to the core. "Is it safe?" Park's face showed a hint of concern. "Mostly, as long as we don't push it too hard. The truth is, we don't fully understand it yet. That's why the Tukra can't know about it. They'd either try to take it or destroy it." "So what's our plan?" asked Lieutenant Ba. Park turned to face her team. "We continue to let them underestimate us. Meanwhile, we finish testing the advanced systems. If they ever decide Earth isn't worth being polite to anymore, we'll be ready." Later that night, Commander Park sat alone in her quarters. She opened a small box on her desk and took out an old, worn photograph. It showed her as a young girl standing with her grandfather, an old soldier who had fought in wars long before aliens arrived. "You always said the most dangerous enemy is the one who looks weak but isn't," she whispered to the picture. "I hope you were right." Her computer beeped with an incoming message. It was from Admiral Sun-Ho Kim, head of Earth Defense. "The Tukra delegation has returned to their homeworld." His message read, "Their initial report describes the Defiant as a charming but primitive attempt at military technology. They'd recommended minimal monitoring of Earth's space activities, considering us no threat. Operation Trojan Horse is proceeding exactly as planned." Park smiled slightly. The first phase was complete. The Tukra thought they knew everything about human capabilities. They had no idea what was coming. In the depths of the ship, the alien power core pulsed with strange energy, almost as if it was alive and waiting. And around Earth, 5 more ships were being built in secret, deep inside hollowed-out asteroids, where Tukra scanners couldn't detect them. The aliens had mocked the Defiant. Soon, they would learn their mistake. Humans had always been at their most dangerous when others thought them weak. Park closed her computer and looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Tukra were laughing about the primitive humans and their cute little spaceship. "Laugh while you can," she whispered. "The real show hasn't even started yet." 3 months had passed since the Tukra's visit to the Defiant. Commander Juan Park sat in her quarters reviewing disturbing reports from the human outposts near Ta City. The screens showed burning buildings and injured colonists. The moral raiders had struck again, destroying 3 research stations and kidnapping dozens of scientists. The moral were known throughout the galaxy as brutal pirates. They looked like tall, thin lizards with sharp teeth and scales that could deflect most standard weapons. Their ships were fast, but not particularly advanced. Usually, they only attacked targets they knew were defenseless. "They shouldn't have known about our weakness at Ta City," Park muttered as she studied the attack patterns. "Someone told them exactly where to hit us." Her communication panel beeped. It was Mina Kang, the chief engineer. "Commander, you need to see this," Kang said, her voice tight with anger. "I analyzed the moral attack formations from the surveillance data. Look at these flight patterns." The screen showed the paths of the moral ships during their attack. They formed clear, precise patterns. "These aren't random raids," Park said, leaning forward. "This is military testing. They're probing our defenses systematically." "Exactly," Kang replied. "And there's more. I found energy signatures at the edge of the system just before each attack. Someone was watching." "Tukra signatures." "Yes, but disguised to look like background radiation. They thought they were being clever." Park's face hardened. "So the Tukra are using the moral to test us. They want to see how we respond without getting their hands dirty." Earth's leaders had already asked the Tukra for help under their new defense treaty. The official response had come that morning. "Your outposts are of minimal strategic value. We cannot spare resources for such inconsequential matters." Park was summoned to Luna Base the next day. The trip took only 2 hours in the high-speed shuttle. The base was built into the dark side of the moon, hidden from Earth and casual observation. Admiral Sunho Kim waited in the command center. He was a small man with short gray hair and serious eyes. He had led Earth's defenses for 15 years. "Commander Park," he said, nodding as she entered, "I believe you've already figured out what's happening." "The Tukra are testing us," she replied. "They're using the moral to see how we respond to attacks." "Precisely." Kim touched a panel on his desk, and the lights dimmed. A holographic display appeared between them, showing the Defiant. But it wasn't the ship the Tukra had seen. This version of the Defiant looked similar from the outside, but the internal systems were completely different. The hologram showed new weapons, engines, and defense systems unlike anything humanity had publicly admitted to possessing. "The Defiant is ready for its true maiden voyage," Kim said. "What the Tukra saw was a shell. What you'll be commanding is something else entirely." Park walked around the hologram, studying it carefully. "These modifications, they shouldn't be possible with our current technology." "They wouldn't be if we hadn't had help." Kim touched another control, and a new image appeared, a crashed ship buried in ice. 10 years ago, this vessel crashed in Antarctica. The pilot died, but the ship was mostly intact. It wasn't Tukra. It wasn't moral. It was something else, something more advanced than anything we'd ever seen. "I thought that was just a rumor," Park said. "We wanted it to stay that way. We've spent a decade reverse engineering what we found. The results are now built into the Defiant." The hologram shifted to show the ship's new capabilities. The shield system could adapt to any weapon. The targeting computers used quantum entanglement to predict enemy movements before they happened. Most impressive was the new drive system. "Is this what I think it is?" Park asked, pointing to the engine design. Kim nodded. "Yes, it can bend spacetime. The Defiant can effectively teleport short distances during battle. No targeting system can predict where you'll be because you'll never be where physics says you should be." Park studied the specifications with growing excitement. "The Tukra have no idea what they've done by provoking us." "No, they don't," Kim agreed. "They think they're dealing with primitive humans who barely understand space travel." He turned off the hologram and looked directly at Park. "Your mission is simple. Take the Defiant to Ta City. Save our people. Show the moral and their Tukra handlers exactly what happens when humanity is pushed too far." The next morning, Commander Park addressed her crew before departure. They stood in the Defiant's main hangar, over 200 men and women ready for their first real combat mission. "What we're about to do will change humanity's place in the galaxy forever," she told them. "Right now, the Tukra and their allies think we're weak, primitive, easy targets. By the time we return, they'll never make that mistake again." As the crew cheered, Park looked out the hangar window at Earth below them. The beautiful blue planet looked so peaceful from space. She had sworn to protect it, and now that promise would be tested. "They've never seen humans fight for survival," Park said quietly as she turned to board her ship. "They're about to learn." The Defiant slipped into the Ta City system without making a sound. Its new stealth technology hid it completely from enemy scanners. The ship moved like a ghost through space, approaching the human research station on the 5th planet. Commander Juwan Park stood on the bridge, her face showing no emotion as she watched the situation on the main screen. 3 large moral warships surrounded the human outpost. Their ugly, spike-covered ships fired constantly at the station's outer walls. The station's shields were failing. Small escape pods shot away from the station toward the planet below, carrying scientists and workers trying to escape. "Status report," Park ordered. Lieutenant Ba checked his weapons console. "All systems ready, Commander. The new pulse cannons are fully charged. Shield harmonics are adaptive and running at 100%. Officer Jamin Ryu looked up from the navigation station. "Quantum displacement drive is online. The system has never been tested in actual combat, Commander." "Then today we make history," Park replied. She took her seat in the command chair. "How many people are still on that station?" Communications Officer Yuna Han pressed her earpiece closer. "I'm picking up transmissions. About 40 people remain trapped in the central hub. The Moral have cut off their escape routes." Park nodded. "Then we have no time to waste." She pressed the ship-wide communication button on her chair. "All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. I repeat, all hands to battle stations." Throughout the ship, alarm lights flashed. Crew members ran to their positions. In the engine room, Mina Kang watched her team prepare the experimental drive system. "If this works," she told her assistant, "we're about to change the rules of space warfare forever." On the bridge, Park leaned forward in her chair. "Power to all systems. Disengage stealth mode. Let's introduce ourselves." The Defiant suddenly appeared on all moral scanners. For a moment, nothing happened as the enemy ships processed this new information. Then, predictably, they attacked. "Incoming plasma torpedoes," warned Security Chief Choi. "Impact in 5 seconds." Park remained calm. "Engage quantum displacement." Officer Rio pressed his hand against the new control panel. "Jumping now." The view on the main screen blurred. The crew felt a strange sensation, as if their bodies were stretching and compressing at the same time. Then, in less than a heartbeat, the Defiant was no longer where it had been. The Moral torpedoes flew through empty space, hitting nothing. The Defiant reappeared directly behind the largest Moral ship. "They're confused," said Officer Han, listening to the Moral communications. "They don't understand what happened." "They're about to," Park said. "Target their propulsion and weapons arrays." Precise strikes only. We want to disable, not destroy. Targeting complete, said Lieutenant Baugh. Firing adaptive pulse cannons. The new weapons fired. Unlike normal weapons, these analyzed the enemy shields as they fired, adjusting their energy frequency to pass through. Bright beams of energy struck the Moral ship exactly where they were aimed. The enemy ship's engines went dark. Its weapons stopped firing. Within 30 seconds, it was drifting helplessly in space. First target neutralized, they reported with a smile. The second Moral ship turned all its weapons toward the Defiant. But the human vessel jumped again, appearing suddenly to the side of the enemy. Again, the adaptive weapons fired, cutting through shields and hitting critical systems. They're signaling surrender, Officer Han announced. The second ship is standing down. The third Moral captain was smarter. His ship turned and accelerated away from the battle, trying to escape. They're running, Choi said. Not for long, Park replied. Jump to intercept course. The Defiant vanished and reappeared directly in front of the fleeing ship. The Moral vessel tried to turn, but the Defiant seemed to predict every move, staying perfectly positioned to block escape. One more warning shot, Park ordered. A single pulse hit the nose of the Moral ship, burning through its forward shield. All three ships have stopped fighting, Han reported. The first ship is completely disabled. The other two have powered down weapons. Park stood up from her chair. Open a channel to all three vessels. When the connection was established, she spoke clearly and firmly. This is Commander Juwan Park of the United Earth ship Defiant. You will release all human prisoners and withdraw from this system permanently. Consider this humanity's only warning. The main screen showed the face of the Moral captain. His lizard-like features showed confusion and fear. How did you do that? He asked. No human ship can move like that. You were misinformed about our capabilities, Park replied coldly. Now release our people. Within an hour, all the captured humans had been returned to the research station. The Defiant stationed itself protectively above the facility as repair teams went to work. In her private quarters, Park sent a secure message to Admiral Kim on Earth. First engagement complete. All objectives achieved. 0 casualties on our side. The Defiant systems performed beyond expectations. She added one final line. If the Tukra were watching, they just learned an important lesson. Far at the edge of the system, a cloaked Tukra observation vessel recorded everything. Its commander stared at the replay of the battle with wide eyes. He immediately sent an urgent message to his superiors. Warning. Human military capability severely underestimated. Recommend immediate reassessment of threat level. News of the Defiant's victory against the Moral ships spread fast. Alien traders and travelers carried the story from planet to planet. No one knew exactly what had happened, but everyone heard that a single human ship had defeated 3 Moral destroyers in minutes. The Tukra High Command met in their grand hall on their home planet. They sat around a large table made of rare metal, their multiple eyes blinking with concern. How could one human ship defeat 3 Moral vessels? Asked High Commander Lox. The humans are primitive. Their technology is basic. Clearly, we were wrong, replied War Minister Drun. Our observers recorded parts of the battle. The human ship moved in ways that should be impossible. It appeared to teleport. After much debate, they decided to send their best military expert to Earth. Supreme Commander Vrick would go to help the humans with their Moral problem. His real job was to find out how advanced human technology really was. Vrick arrived at Earth 2 weeks later in a sleek Tukra cruiser. He was tall even for a Tukra, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. His ceremonial armor gleamed as he stepped into the Earth Defense Headquarters to meet Admiral Sun Ho Kim. Supreme Commander Vrick, Kim said with a slight bow. We appreciate the Tukra Collective's sudden interest in our situation. Vrick noticed the hint of sarcasm, but ignored it. The collective has been impressed by your recent victory at Tau Ceti. Perhaps we underestimated humanity's progress. As they spoke, an urgent message came in. A junior officer rushed into the room, his face pale. Admiral, long-range scanners have detected a massive fleet entering the outer solar system, the officer reported. It's the Moral, sir. 17 dreadnoughts and dozens of smaller vessels. Kim's face showed no surprise, as if he had been expecting this. Time to arrival. 48 hours, sir. Vrick stepped forward. This is concerning. The Moral have never assembled such a large attack force before. He paused, then added smoothly, the collective will offer support, of course. I have called for 2 of our cruisers to join Earth's defense. What he didn't say was that these cruisers would stay far enough away to avoid real danger. They would observe and record the battle, and humanity's likely defeat. The next day, Vrick addressed Earth's Security Council. On large screens around the room, they could see the approaching Moral fleet. It was enormous, enough to overwhelm Earth's known defenses many times over. We will document your noble last stand, Vrick assured the council members. Your species' courage will be remembered throughout the galaxy. Admiral Kim, sitting at the head of the table, smiled slightly. This confused Vrick. Why would a man smile when facing certain destruction? Thank you for your concern, Supreme Commander, Kim said. But the Defiant isn't alone anymore. He pressed a button, and the main screen changed to show Earth's orbital shipyards. Hidden sections of the yards opened to reveal 5 large vessels. They looked similar to the Defiant, but with subtle differences. May I present the Resolute, Indomitable, Fearless, Dauntless, and Sovereign, Kim said proudly. Each one carries the same technology as the Defiant, with improvements based on combat experience. Vrick couldn't hide his shock. How did you build these without our knowledge? Our satellites monitor Earth's space activities. We've been building them inside hollow asteroids, Kim explained. Places your scans don't reach. Vrick tried to appear calm, but his mind was racing. If each of these ships could do what the Defiant had done at Ta City, the coming battle might not go as the Tukra had predicted. On the day of the battle, the Moral fleet reached the outer defense perimeter near Jupiter. Their ships formed attack positions, ready to push toward Earth. The 2 Tukra cruisers positioned themselves at a safe distance to observe. From Earth, 6 warships launched, the Defiant and her 5 sister ships. They looked small compared to the massive Moral dreadnoughts. Commander Park, recently promoted to fleet captain, stood on the Defiant's bridge. She wore a new uniform with captain's insignia on the collar. All ships report ready, Captain, said Officer Ann. Park nodded. Open a channel to the Tukra observation vessels. When the connection was established, Park's face appeared on the main screen of Vrick's ship. The Supreme Commander was surprised by the human's confidence. Supreme Commander Vrick, Park said, since you've come all this way to watch, I want to make sure you have a good view. Her voice was calm, but carried an edge of steel. Watch carefully. The 6 human ships accelerated toward the Moral fleet. The enemy responded by launching hundreds of fighters and aiming weapons at the approaching vessels. On his observation cruiser, Vrick leaned forward. Now we will see what these humans can really do, he said to his crew. The space between Jupiter and Mars was about to become a battlefield that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. As the first Moral weapons fired, Vrick suddenly wondered if he was watching from a safe enough distance after all. The battle started with a flash of light. The 6 human ships faced the huge Moral fleet near Jupiter. From his safe position, Supreme Commander Vrick expected to watch humanity's quick defeat. He was wrong. The human ships did something impossible. They disappeared and reappeared in different places, jumping through space like ghosts. The Moral fired thousands of weapons, but most hit empty space where human ships had been just seconds before. What am I seeing? Vrick whispered as he watched the battle. His crew stood silent, also amazed. The Defiant led the attack. Captain Park's voice was calm as she gave orders. Her ship jumped right into the middle of 3 Moral dreadnoughts. Before they could react, the Defiant fired its special weapons. The shots changed color and frequency as they traveled, finding the exact way to break through the moral shields. The other human ships followed her example. The Sovereign and Dauntless attacked from the sides, while the Resolute, Indomitable, and Fearless struck from behind. Together, they surrounded the first group of moral ships. "Their weapons are adapting," said Vrick's science officer. "Each time they fire, they're more effective against moral defenses." The first 3 moral dreadnoughts exploded within 20 minutes. The human ships jumped away before the explosions could harm them. Then they moved to the next targets. The moral tried to change their tactics. They fired in all directions, hoping to hit the human ships when they appeared. This worked once, catching the Fearless as it materialized. The brave ship took heavy damage but kept fighting. The battle moved closer to Mars. The human ships worked together perfectly, as if they could read each other's minds. They jumped in and out, striking the moral ships and vanishing before the enemy could respond. "It's like fighting ghosts," said Vrick's tactical officer. 5 hours into the battle, half the moral fleet was destroyed or disabled. The human ships showed signs of damage but kept fighting. The Fearless took the worst hits when it protected Earth's orbital colonies from moral missiles. By the 7th hour, it was over. 11 moral dreadnoughts had been destroyed. 4 had surrendered and were captured. The rest fled in panic, jumping into deep space with no formation or plan. Supreme Commander Vrick had not moved from his observation post during the entire battle. He couldn't believe what he had seen. One of his officers finally spoke. "Sir, we're receiving a message from Captain Park. She is requesting your presence aboard the Defiant for a meeting." When Vrick stepped onto the Defiant's bridge, he looked different. His usual proud posture was gone. He moved carefully, his eyes taking in every detail of the ship. Captain Park greeted him formally, but didn't offer the usual low bow that Tukra expected from less advanced species. "Your technology," Vrick said slowly, "is not what we were led to believe." Park nodded. "We've learned that sometimes appearing weak offers strategic advantages. Your people assumed our quietness was submission. It wasn't. It was concentration." Vrick looked at the damaged but still powerful ship around him. "How did you develop quantum displacement?" "Our scientists say it's impossible." "That's the advantage of being new," Park replied. "We haven't been told what's impossible yet." Over the next few months, everything changed in Earth's relationship with alien species. The Tukra Collective, once so dismissive, now proposed a real alliance. They offered to share technology and create joint defense plans. Other alien species that had ignored humans before now sent ambassadors to Earth. 1 year after the Tukra had first mocked the Defiant, Admiral Kim and Captain Park stood on the observation deck of Luna Base. Below them, human and Tukra engineers worked together on a new ship design. "They underestimated us," Kim said quietly, "because we're young among the stars." Park watched a shuttle carrying Tukra diplomats dock at the station. The aliens now treated humans with respect, even admiration. "Youth has its advantages," she replied. "We haven't learned what's supposedly impossible yet." Through the large window, they could see the Defiant in the distance. The ship was in a repair dock, its hull showing the marks of battle. Workers moved around it, fixing the damage. "What do you think will happen next?" Kim asked. Park smiled slightly. "Now comes the hard part. Being respected is more difficult than being underestimated." The Defiant's quantum core glowed softly as repairs continued. The ship that had changed humanity's place in the galaxy rested, its mission complete but its story far from over. Earth was no longer seen as a primitive backwater world. Humans had proven they belonged among the stars, not as followers, but as equals. In deep space, news of the Battle of Sol spread from world to world. The story grew with each telling. How 6 human ships had defeated a fleet many times their size. How they moved like no ships had moved before. How the mighty Tukra had been forced to admit they were wrong. And on countless planets, other young species looked to the stars with new hope. If humans could rise so quickly, perhaps they could too.